Today we are talking through yet another scam on eBay, and this time eBay's response on the situation is beyond a joke. It's utterly insane. I can't believe they've thought through this the way that they have, so stay tuned to hear my thoughts on this. I'll explain this scam to you in detail, but then also share some tips on how you can sort of avoid getting scammed yourself in this situation. Now, this is going to be a different video to what I talked about 2 weeks ago with regards to those fake PSA slabs with the real labels and fake cards and altered cards potentially getting put into those slabs, right? This video is primarily targeted to sealed wax and buyers taking advantage of sellers. Now, to give you some context, essentially what has occurred is that this person on IG, who I basically anonymized their name because I wasn't sure if they wanted to be, shouted out or anything. If they do, I'll put your name in the description below. But essentially, they sold a sealed box on eBay to a buyer. The buyer got the box, busted it open, said to the person, you know what, there was no autograph in this box. I want my money back. The guy, obviously, as a seller, you're like, mate, yeah, you're fat out of luck, fat chance you're not getting your money back because you've busted the product. It's worthless now. How do I know that you didn't, pocket the autograph and just pretend you didn't get it? How do I know you didn't do any tampering, etc.? And obviously, in a situation like that, if you wanted to return buying a sealed product, you'd have to return it sealed, right? It doesn't make sense. So it looked fairly black and white, but as some of you that are seasoned collectors will know, that things like this have popped up on eBay, over the years, and their response on this situation is pretty alarming and might spell to start seeing a lot more of these moving forward, because eBay's response was essentially this. They've said, these boxes, I don't care what you say, we treat them the same as essentially any other product like shoes, phone, etc. If it's been opened, they're still well entitled to their return, even though the boxes lose value once they're opened, which is, a very alarming response from eBay and goes against common sense completely. And this guy has spoken to different people out at eBay. I know other people that I've talked to since seeing this post in the last day or so, and they've told me they've gone through similar things in the last, month or so themselves. I've spoken to a few people that sell a lot of wax on eBay, and it's just crazy how nobody's, speaking up about it. How can eBay, in their right mind, say to a seller who, if you're a high volume seller and you're selling a lot of, sealed product, as this guy is, without giving away who it is, you're doing all that sort of stuff. You need to protect your sellers as much as you do your buyers. So how can you say to a seller that, if they return this, yes, you're going to lose value, but we still want that to happen? It's like, no, you're not just going to lose value. It defeats the whole purpose of selling a sealed product, right? The second you bust up a product, it's literally worthless. And the other point to factor in here that eBay hasn't, that I've told this person, you need to keep calling eBay to actually speak to someone, because autos are not guaranteed in boxes. If you read the fine print on the back of the box, Panini do not guarantee autos in a box. Now, I can't recall specifically what the box was in this specific instance, and maybe it was a product that did have a guaranteed hit. But like this guy says in his first post, can you imagine if this was NT or flawless, where somebody buys, a box of NT, they open it, they get shit cards, or they don't get the product hit, as an example, and they've spent all that money, so they say, you know what, let's return it, get my money back, and you have all the crap cards now, they're completely worthless, so you're never going to be able to recoup your money on. It's just a joke. So how can eBay, sort of make that statement? I don't understand it. And I think I alluded to a little bit earlier, we've seen things like this happen in the past on eBay, particularly here in Australia, from what I recall as well. And what people have been able to do is, you keep calling eBay until you get an answer. And this is the best tip, right? If somebody tries to do this to you, do not facilitate this return until you actually speak to a person at eBay and explicitly explain to them what, a sealed product is and how it's not the same as selling a phone, as an example. Because, sealed product is literally worthless once it's open. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get anything that comes anywhere close to the value of that box, especially in today's market. So it's just, very crazy. So like I said, people in Australia have, contacted eBay, got on the phone, and they've obviously squashed this return request pretty quickly. But I don't understand what they're thinking. And the fact that they're so adamant with their response, and what this guy has said is they've spoken to a few different people out at eBay, all with the same message. If this is the new norm, are we going to start seeing a crap ton of returns start being facilitated through eBay with people trying to take advantage of the situation? Like I've said, in plenty of videos when I call out these scammers, right? These guys are coming up with new and innovative ways to try and take advantage of you, right? They're out there primarily trying to recoup, all the wasted money they spent over the last 2 to 3 years because they weren't thinking right, as most people were within the hobby. But also, they're just assholes. How can you justify this in any way, shape, or form? Like, I can understand if you are an individual that's bought a box and you've busted it open and you didn't get an auto and you feel aggrieved by that, but that's not this seller's fault. Go talk to Panini, go talk to Topps, go talk to Leaf. That's their problem, not this seller's problem. And, you know, to give you some further context on this, I've had that happen to me before with Select 2013 basketball. Busted open a box, and I don't think I got any autos or swatches in the box, if I remember correctly. You could probably find the video on Cherry Collectibles. It's from about 10 years ago. Grayson basically busted open the box for me, and he's like, where's the autos? Where's the patches? He showed me the code. I sent that code to Panini, and Panini basically said, you shit out of luck because they're not guaranteed. You know, which is fair to an extent, but go after them. Go talk to them. Especially if, you know, in this specific instance, it was a box that had a guaranteed auto, right? You show the serial number to Panini and they can do their investigation off the back of that. People will say, you know what, the serial number inside the box doesn't mean squat, based on the discussions I've had with Panini 5, 6, 7 years ago when things like this happened to me, when things like this happened to my friends, you know, they were able to look into it for them. So again, I hope I haven't given any people ideas by posting this video and brought this to the front of mind to try and do this themselves, to try and rip people off. It's just a joke. So again, let me reiterate, the key thing to do in this specific instance, if this happens to you, keep pestering eBay. Do not facilitate the return until you talk to someone. If that means you have to literally take the day off work to call eBay, you know, every freaking 60 seconds until you finally speak to someone, that's what you have to do, right? Because you need to talk to a person, because as soon as you explicitly explain, like I touched on earlier, what a sealed product actually means and why it can't be compared to those other products they touched on, and why it literally is not justifiable for them to return the product to you after being opened, and why autographs are not hits. That's a pretty poor excuse from the customer. Unless you explain those very clearly, they're not going to listen to you, and you sort of need to do that. And then they're going to hear that sort of stuff and say, okay, that doesn't make sense. Why the heck are we forcing you to do these returns? So again, a very crap situation. People, you know, keep doing dodgy stuff like this. And I hope, you know, videos like this help educate you and sort of make sure that you don't get scammed yourself. If you see things like this, please call it out. Don't just sit, you know, on the fence and not talk about this sort of stuff, because that's how people continue to get scammed. So I thank this guy for, you know, posting it. Firstly, he was venting on social media, but he answered a couple of questions that I gave him. I said, you know what, keep me informed. If you don't get anywhere with eBay, let me know. I didn't tell him I was making this video, it just happened on a spur of the moment, decided to talk about it today. But again, it's just a very, you know, alarming situation. What if we do see this with NTL Flawless, like this guy said? What if we do see this with Eminence? Like, guys, come on. I can understand that you talking those dollar figures, eBay might, you know, take the matter a bit more seriously, because eBay, you know, are pretty poor when it comes to solving problems sometimes. But this is just a joke. What's next? We're going to have situations where you sell a legitimate graded card on eBay, the person cracks it open, takes the card out, puts a completely different card in there and says, you know what, the seller sent me the wrong thing. Like, I get that people have done scams like that on eBay all the time, right? Where they say, this is not the card you sent me, you scammed me, you sent the wrong thing, which is why one of my other tips is to always, you know, film the packaging of whatever you're selling on eBay, especially if it's something expensive. But it's just crazy, the fact that this person said, I didn't get my autograph, I want my money back. Like, that is not a good enough excuse for a return. And given that eBay, you know, have now taken, you know, a pretty big step forward with this eBay authentication program, they're taking sports cards and trading cards, you know, seriously as a market offering, yet they're freaking dropping the ball in a space like this. It just, once again, talks to, you know, all the dumb mistakes that eBay make that they really shouldn't be doing. So again, please share your thoughts on this down in the comments below. I'm not sure if I, you know, said I'd say a few things at the start of it and I've since forgotten about them. If I did, please let me know and I'll answer your questions down, you know, in the comments below. But as always, thank you for watching. Let me know, share your thoughts. Let me know if you've experienced this or if friends have it. I think it's just a freaking joke. If somebody tried to do this to me, I'd be going to that person's house and having a very stern conversation with them about this return. And I know it's probably not the right thing to do, but when you've got people trying to scam you, you know, you sort of reap what you sow. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.